Welcome to the Seat 14 podcast, a different perspective on college basketball told by those who lived it. Join us as we bring you insider views, analysis, breakdowns, and predictions from one of the most storied programs in the country, from someone who saw it all from the end of the bench, the 14th seat. In association with the Field of 68 and alongside producer Jordan Barber, I'm your host, Todd Lanter, and this is Seat 14. Welcome in to episode 12 of the Seat 14 podcast. Today is February 4th, 2022. I can't believe we're already a month into the year. Presented by the Field of 68, powered by Bet River Sportsbook and Budweiser King of Beers. I am in Las Vegas at the Cosmopolitan, and there is a interesting piece of decor on the wall behind us here.
Is that just like operating standard in Vegas?
Oh, it's everywhere. Wait, I'll show you. I'll send you videos of the check-in desk downstairs. It's okay. Very, very exciting. Also, with this light, it looks like I'm doing like a Halloween bit.
They're spooky.
So the combination here is very interesting. The dynamic's very interesting.
Yeah.
Also interesting, the guest that we're going to have on today. So we're very excited to bring on Jeff Sheppard here shortly. But first, we have a couple games to talk about.
Sure enough.
Kansas who?
Yeah, we got to start there, I guess.
18-point win for the Cats on the road in Fall Gallon Fieldhouse. To say that we didn't think they had it in them isn't necessarily fair, but I did not think that they'd be capable of going in there and doing that on that floor in that environment. Color me impressed. I am more confident. I mean, this goes without saying, but I'm more confident in this team after that win, even than I thought I would be. 18 points. It wasn't even 18 points is so much closer than the game actually was. Like we beat them by 30. We beat them.
Might as well have.
They were never in the game from the very opening tip. They were never in the game. Unbelievable performance all the way down the line. But that, I feel really, really good. After the way that we, between the Auburn, Mississippi State, and then this Kansas performance, I feel better than I thought I could. If I'd even gotten to choose the way that those three games were going to go. I know we lost to Auburn, but I'm saying what we've gained from that loss has been worth it. Good loss.
Good loss.
I hate that.
No, but so, okay. I'm in a bit of a mental dilemma about that Kansas game, because on one hand, it's only Bill Self's 16th loss in the Fog, almost the worst. I think the worst was like a 22-point against Texas, but that was during the COVID year, no fans. So really, this one was the worst. Does it say more about Kansas's weaknesses as a team, or does it say more about this Kentucky team's strengths?
I think it's more about Kentucky's strengths. I mean, Ochai is one of the best players in the country. And up until that game was tied for the front runner with Oscar for National Player of the Year in the Wooden Award. And if that's the criteria for who wins that award, then Oscar's got this in the bag. But in that environment, college game day in Lawrence, back on the road for the first time in 693 days. The Jayhawks, like you said, had as many conference championships as they do losses in that building. You got the two biggest players in the country going up against each other, two biggest as far as the leaders for the Wooden Award, and they're both going to be Final Four teams. This kid,
I don't know about that now, Todd.
I'm saying
at the time they certainly were.
Ochai had scored double figures in all 19 games so far this year. He's ninth in the country in scoring average at 21.3 on the season, and he had 33 over the past two games combined, or 33 over the past two games leading into the Kentucky game.
And what did he have?
He's also shooting threes at a 47% clip, 52.7% from the field.
Yeah.
He had 37 points Monday against Texas Tech before the Kentucky game, hit the shot that sent it to overtime, and to kick all of it off, he's averaging 28 points against ranked opponents this season, which is number one in Division I. So
what did he finish with against Kentucky?
I'm saying the kid doesn't shy away from the spotlight and wasn't, planning to against Kentucky. And let me see, what did he finish with? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, I think it was like 12 points, to be honest with you. 12 points on like 35.
I know it was double
40%
figures because
shooting.
he maintained his let's see here. It was 13.
13.
But my point is that kid doesn't shy away from the spotlight. And his resume shows that it's not that he wasn't going to lay down on the job, right? So
Right.
Your question was, does Kentucky get the credit for the stoppage, or is it Kansas's fault for laying down? And I think Kentucky gets the credit. I think we stepped up and stopped them. I think we defended them well. I think we took them out of their game.
Speaking of defending, do you know who drew the Agbaji assignment for most of the game?
Yes, and he's
Kellen
the worst
Brady.
defender in the starting lineup.
Yeah, and that's impressive.
Prior to that game, Kellen was widely accepted the worst defender in the starting lineup for us.
Right.
And my understanding is he requested that job, and he guarded him for, I'd say, 70% of the possessions that they were both on the floor together, and guarded him well. It took him forever to get going. And I mean, really, like we said, he ended up with 13. He had 13 and 2.
Yeah, that's a pedestrian performance
minutes.
for him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's probably his worst performance of the year as far as efficiency goes. He was 4 for 14 from the field, and like we just said, he's shooting 52.7% from the field on the season, 47% from 3.
Yeah, impressive.
He was 2 for 6. He was 2 for 6 from 3. We defended him in all aspects of the game. And I don't want to make it just about him. He's one piece to the puzzle. This Kansas team is tough, or was playing tough, and I still think they'll end up being.
No, they're totally capable of making a run. The thing is, they can't draw a matchup like Oscar. Their bigs just don't have what it takes to hang with a top 5 big in the country. And like Oscar or Cockburn, or I think even Duke's big, I forget, I think his last name's Williams, I forget his name, but Duke's big would probably even give him problems. So it was definitely a matchup thing. But Kentucky just dominated, man, to be honest, just physically dominated that Kansas team. And it all starts with Oscar at the end of the day. Keon's aggressiveness too impressed me a lot.
Yeah, Keon with 27 points, obviously, incredible performance. Oscar with another 17 and 14, just light work for him at this point.
Yeah.
Ty, was pretty much absent in that game, and it didn't make any bit of difference. I mean, how many times are you going to have a guy like Ty Washington go 1 for 9 with 2 points? Okay. And Davion Mintz have 0 points.
Yeah.
0 for 3 from the field. And we beat a Kansas team, a top 5 team, by 18 on the road.
Ran them out the gym.
Ran them out of the gym. And again, 18, it was much, much higher than 18. 18 is not paint a clear picture of the way that this game went. And if you'd have told me before the game that Davion was going to put up a goose egg and Ty was going to have 2 points, even coming off of that injury, I would have said we're going to get pummeled. And Keon just comes out of the woodwork and goes for 27 competently, 9 for 10 from the free throw line, 9 of 16 from the floor. They were giving him that pull up, and he was knocking them down with confidence.
I like the pull up. Obviously, that is where the majority of his points came from. I think you can tell Keon's going to have a good game when he gets a put back dunk early, because realistically, he can jump, man. He can jump really high, and his arms are really long. If he gets on the glass and takes advantage of all of Oscar's presence down there, I think I immediately know we're in for a good Keon Brooks game. And it sucks that that's kind of the determining factor, but hopefully he can just build that momentum up over and over again, where to the point where he knows that if he does the little things, eventually that jump shot is going to fall, which is obviously his bread and butter, is that 16-foot jumper.
Sorry, my light went out.
You're good.
At least it doesn't look like I'm doing a horror movie anymore. So does it look? Yeah, it's fine. Okay. I mean, you can't tell me that this team isn't rallying around each other when you have guys come out and put up numbers the way that they did when others were, took a step back. We had the starting 5 played 30 minutes, 29 minutes, 32 minutes, 34 minutes, and 37 minutes. And then we got 11 and 10 out of Jacob Toppin and Lance Ware. And Jacob Toppin, Cal tried to put Jacob Toppin in at some point later in the second half, and he said, no, leave Keon in there. He's, he's playing with confidence. He's on a roll. He needs to keep this momentum going, not only for this game, but for the season. And, that shows where this team is at with one another and the brotherhood that they're developing.
Yeah, that's an impressive mindset for a kid that age to feel that way. Cal, you need to elaborate on this, but Cal's best teams believe in each other, right? And
100%.
they want each other to succeed, and that's clearly the type of atmosphere that this team has, maybe to a more of an extent than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about a young kid who's played 11 minutes, or I think at the time it was 8 minutes in this game, and gets the chance, is getting called on to go back into the game against Kansas in prime time with game day there. Like this is
fog.
In fog. And this kid is a walking highlight reel. I mean, Jacob Toppin is, got a chance to get in there and do something that's going to get him on number one on Sports Center. And he waved off Cal and said, no, let my teammate go. We're going to need him with this confidence that he's building right now. And, credit to him. He did an incredible,
massive credit to him.
Yeah. He did an incredible thing for his brother that's going to end up being something that this team's going to need down the road. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, most roundabout way possible, I think Kentucky won this game. Kansas didn't lose it.
Sure enough. Let's move on to Vandy.
I'll say this going into this, Ochai, Jalen Wilson, and Christian Brown, I thought were going to give us some serious matchup problems. I thought they would combine that with Ty's questionability with his ankle. I thought we were going to have a serious problem trying to guard the three of those guys. And man, I was wrong. They stepped up. They outperformed what I thought possible in that scenario. And again, that's the kind of game that they needed. It's less about the win, even though obviously that win's important, but it's less about the win and more about the fact that now they believe they can do it. And if they can win that game, they can beat anybody in the country. With that said, I think now it's a pretty clear cut, 5 or maybe 6 teams, probably 4 or 5 teams really that are capable of winning a national title. I'd originally thought Kansas was one of those. They very well might make a run in the tournament and end up being up there pretty high. But I'd say, the top few, Auburn, Gonzaga, UCLA, Kentucky, Purdue, those guys are all kind of taking shape as the front runners for who I think can win 6 games in a row.
Yeah, personally, I would bump UCLA and put Arizona in there instead. The presence of the big man helps. Siri, stop turning on. I don't know why my Siri keeps turning on. The presence of the big man that I think UCLA lacks, and Arizona certainly has with, it's important, and it exposes Kansas' weakness with McCormick. And I think it's one thing when you look at all those teams you're talking about, what they all have in common. I mean, hell, Gonzaga has 2 of them. 7-footers that can come in and make an impact. In whatever way they need to. I think it's essential for a run this year with all the size and quality size that these teams have in the top 5.
Well, that's easy for you to say is about Arizona over UCLA now because we're recording this on Friday morning and you know what happened last night.
I do.
Yeah, so you're cheating the system a little bit here, but that's fine.
No, hey, okay, don't lie, man. Numbers don't lie.
All right, let's move on to Vandy. So Vandy comes to town on what was it, Wednesday, I guess.
Correct.
And what do we think? What do we think about what does a win over Vandy prove to this team after what we've done the last couple of weeks?
More now than it used to, because I will say Stack is building a program there, and Scottie Pippen Jr. is one of the best players in the country.
He is.
He'll end up being a quality professional player too.
Mm-hmm.
More than it used to be. And honestly, thank you to Vandy for making it a weirdly physical game and making making Kentucky wake up and realize that you're not just going to roll over every team you play against that's not at the top of the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that from them. Weirdly physical.
I mean, that's something I think that this team needs. And every night I want them to be challenged in a different way. If you can just coast by a lot of these teams that people look at as trap games, and you don't learn anything from it, that's a night out for another team that is gaining an advantage by learning something.
Absolutely.
I want to be challenged every night out there. Because again, we say it 1,000 times. We say it after losses, especially, but we want to say it after wins too. We need to learn something because, March is coming quick, and we got games where we've been into overtime that we probably shouldn't have, but it was necessary. We've had games where we had to play without a point guard. Obviously that sucks from an injury perspective. We never want to see anybody sidelined, but now we know how to play and operate without a point guard if we need to, if there's a foul trouble issue. We know how to play when we got to go small ball. This team has kind of been challenged in a lot of those different ways in circumstances that we wouldn't ask for ahead of time. But once we're put in that position, we performed, even if the result's been a loss. We've come out and performed and done what's necessary to gain, to get better as a team. And that's what we can ask for in a game where we're playing against a, 11-10 Vanderbilt team.
Yeah. Another thank you to them. Like you said, these hurdles are going to show up over time and the learning experiences. I think one of the final ones for this team, with Oscar's emergence as the front runner for Player of the Year, come early in March, odds are you're going to run into a team that's going to double him. It's going to say, whatever, we're not letting Oscar Tshiebwe beat us. Thank you to Vandy for doing that. Stack saw something that he thought he could capitalize on. And to Oscar's credit, he was ready, and he passed out of a lot of those double teams and found open shooters, open cutters. He's trying some pretty bold bounce passes to cutters that, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about him, but I like that he's at least thinking about it and that he's processing them. What I mean?
Those dump offs work, man. If he can draw the attention that he's drawing, and then he's able to just kind of dump it off, that stuff wins basketball games. He's got a phenomenal eye, and plays, he's got soft enough touch on the ball that he can draw that defense, dump off that pass, and get an easy basket for one of his teammates. It's really opening up a lot of doors for us because of his efficiency in the paint. He had a measly 11 points against Vandy with another 17 rebounds, which is just, we just kind of glance over it and we're like, oh yeah, they doubled him. So he kind of had to take a step back. He had a double with 11 and 17. That's absurd. Keon, continuing his trajectory after the Kansas performance, had another 20, shot basically 50% from the field, 6 of 8 from the free throw line. Again, stepping up and doing his job, getting to the shots that he knows he's successful with, getting to the free throw line and executing from there. Davion did not have another goose egg in the Vandy outing. He gave us 21.
No, he did not.
Once again, though, we're okay if guys have an off night, and that happens in basketball. The thing about this team is somebody stepping up and filling that place, and having their own outing, and their teammates are happy for him. You don't have a guy like Davion coming into a game, Wednesday night, sulking because he had 0 and the story wasn't about him against Kansas, right? Like he's the one everybody's saying, oh, well, we can't have 0 from Davion after a Kansas game, instead of praising him for how good of a game the team had. And he didn't hang his head. He came out and put up 21 against Vandy with a smile on his face. This team's got the right attitude. Like you said, they're happy for one another. They're doing what they can to be the better team. And sometimes that means sitting a little bit more on the bench. Sometimes that means playing a little bit longer minutes than your body's comfortable going. Sometimes that means, being a little bit more resilient, staying a little bit more contained and not getting in foul trouble, or, playing a little bit different of a role if we have to change lineups. And this team has done an incredible job of adapting and learning to do that together. I think the Vandy game was just another example of that.
Yeah. While we're on the topic of the importance of the rotation and having guys who can step in, I know that one of the biggest criticisms of this team, because there's really not much that you can pick at now, to be honest, after what they've done lately, especially with all the injuries. But the main criticism is deep, bench players, guys out of your 7 or 8. And I understand that. We've got a Bryce Hopkins, a Dante Allen coming in, a Damian Collins, not the strongest players. However, I do think, as far as a 7 or 8 man rotation goes, I don't know that there are many teams in the country with a stronger 7 or 8, with guys who are a Davion Mintz, a Lance Ware, able to come in and impact the game so strongly off the bench. I there is a certain amount of depth this team doesn't have, but at the same time, at where that rotation cuts off from your main 7 or 8 to your deep rotation guys, I think it's very strong, very strong.
I agree. And I'm a firm believer that 7 or 8 guys come March is what you need in the tournament. It's most teams find that niche where they're around that mark. I think most of the best teams do. They just play more cohesively together. They know their role. You're not coming off the bench after sitting for 15 minutes. You find that group that's playing well together, that can execute in the way that your team is most effective, playing defensively, playing offensively. They're comfortable, they stay warm, they stay engaged. And throughout the first 3 or 4 months of the season, Cal's pretty much trying to figure out who that 7 or 8 is going to be. And then come February, that's pretty much who you're going to see on the floor the majority of the time, until you get to garbage time. So we're starting to get to the point where that is taking shape. So one more thing I want to say before we take a break and come in with Jeff Sheppard is I told you that he wasn't going to play.
You did. You have been very adamant about this. And
everybody in media, everybody surrounding this team, everyone said he's going to play against Vandy. Yeah. Watch and see. I said he's not playing. He's not playing, and
people are just throwing it out with reckless abandon. Like everybody is.
I wish that he would. I really do wish. Everybody, just to clarify, we're talking about Shaedon Sharpe. We're on the topic of depth, right? I really, as much of an asset as he would be to this team, it would just be a wrinkle we'd have to figure out if he comes in there. Whose minutes is he going to take? If he takes Damian Collins' minutes, that doesn't make any difference. If he takes Jacob Toppin's minutes, it's 10 minutes, I don't know how much of a splash he could make unless you just stuck him out there and were like, okay, you're playing 25 minutes a game because you're that good. And I don't think that Cal's going to do that. I don't think he would do that to this team. I don't think he would do that to that player. My biggest question mark from a selfish perspective, and this isn't from any inside information or anything like that, is why would you play if your draft stock's already so high? All you're going to do is risk injury or risk exposing a weakness in your game that otherwise they wouldn't know about. So from a logical standpoint, I wouldn't think he's going to play. Now, if the process is to come back next year, if that's the game plan, then it doesn't hurt anything to get in there and get your beak wet a little bit. So I do not, however, think those two things are mutually exclusive. If he does end up playing, I don't think that for sure means he's coming back. But I do not see him playing in a ball game this year. And I do think that was the threshold. I think it was this Vandy game. If he didn't play now, I don't think there's any reason to play him the rest of the year.
That's how I felt too. I thought this was the one team that he could get in and really get some minutes against, given their weakness on the wings. But yeah, man, do you think it's relying on injury? Do you think what do you think? Is there anything? I don't think it's fair. Period. I don't think it's fair to Shaedon to use him as a plan B if somebody gets hurt. Now, if somebody does get hurt and he goes to Cal and goes to the staff and says, I'd like to get in there and get some experience regardless of what my plan is for next year, then I think Cal would honor it. But I don't think Cal would put him or his family in that position. Okay. One last thing before we get to Jeff, and then at the end, we're going to preview the Kansas game while we're talking about this rotation. Shout out to Lance Ware, man.
Preview the Alabama game.
Yeah, preview the Alabama game. My bad. I need to shout out Lance Ware because I remember at the beginning of this year, our biggest concern was who's going to be the backup 5. It was really kind of what this whole year hinged on was Oscar staying out of foul trouble. Well, I have no concerns about that now because
I've been a huge what's the word? I've been critical of him. I've critiqued him a lot. I love when I have talking about Lance. Yeah. I love when I have to eat my words. I thought that he was too limited from an offensive skill set. He couldn't move his feet well enough on the defensive end of the floor. He made silly mistakes, brings his hands down a lot when he's contesting his shot, gets himself in bad positions defensively. He has done everything necessary for when Oscar comes out of the game to keep from backsliding. And he's done it efficiently. He's done it well. He deserves a lot more credit than he's going to get for it.
But as much as Cal tries to give him a bunch of credit, I don't know if you've seen people on Twitter, like every time that there's a lull in the press conference, Cal will be like, how about Lance Ware? Like, yes, I agree with you, John. I very much agree with you because Lance has been a big piece, honestly.
He has. And he's not. And that's the part that I think um, he deserves even more credit for recognizing that he's not going to get the credit, and he still goes out and does his job.
Absolutely.
He's doing a lot of the dirty work without as much of the shine, and he deserves a firm handshake from all of his teammates, and eventually, his time will come where he gets the recognition that he's earned. But he's done a phenomenal job playing his role and accepting his role, and doing it with a smile on his face. Again, he's been his brother's keeper. He's up on the bench dancing, cheering, yelling, screaming.
He's always the first off the bench.
Always. For timeouts get called, he's meeting the guys out on the floor. And when he gets in, he makes the absolute most of his time. And again, it's remarkable to see, because it's just so easy to get lost in the "but what about me" thought process. And I think he has shown his maturity in the way that he's approached the game, and his role in it. So I'm glad that you took the time to say that. He deserves an absolute, huge shout out, a standing ovation, a round of applause. I'm proud of him. He's done very well against all the criticism.
It'd be interesting to talk to him, and hopefully we can at some point, about is it practicing against Oscar? Has it been watching Oscar and how just relentless he is, and how much he seems to just embrace and love, getting on the floor and mixing it up regardless of what's going on. Like, it would just, and again, credit to the coaching staff for implementing this culture that you mentioned, where Lance is always the first off the bench. Everybody seems happy no matter how much clock they're getting, no matter how much run they're getting. It's I love this team. I really do. This is an awesome team.
This is I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's the truth. This is the only team that I've been pretty high on since I graduated, that I've thought since 2015 that I've thought could really do some damage. And obviously we've had some good teams. We had Shay's team and Malik and those guys. But this team, for some reason, has, even when they weren't playing so hot at the beginning, even I don't think the Duke loss at the beginning of the year matters whatsoever. No. But even when everybody else is like, oh, our dreams of a perfect season are crushed, like, I have thought that this team had more potential than many in the past 9 or 10 years, or since 2015. So 8 years. And I really think that this team has all the pieces. When you look at what makes a complete team that can make a run into the tournament, this team has all of those qualities. Yeah. And we haven't had a team since that 2015 Kentucky team that's had those pieces, that's had all of them. They've had at least one missing part. And this team seems to have all of it. And again, I think part of that, I'm not saying that Shaedon Sharpe wouldn't be an unbelievable addition to any roster. I'm not saying that at all, but we've kind of got it figured out right now. And, adding that extra puzzle piece might take a little bit of a learning curve, to figure out how it fits back together again. If right now what's best for the kid is to not get on the floor, stay healthy, work for the draft or work for next year, whatever that may bring. And what's best for our team is to maintain, the type of game plan that's been working and winning us ball games, then that's what's going to do. That's what we're going to do. Yeah,
it's a good point.
All right. We're going to take a break, and we will be right back with one of my favorite players to wear the blue and white, whose son has just recently committed to coming here as well, who will be a great addition to Cal's recruiting class coming up in the next couple of years. And we're very excited for what he's going to talk about here with us. We're going to welcome in Jeff Sheppard. We'll be right back. Let me take a second to tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with Bet Rivers yet, now's the time, because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. What sets them apart, though, is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season tipping off, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the Bet Rivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Seat 14 podcast. Joining us now, one of my favorite players that really actually turned me onto the game. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to you much about this, but my love for basketball began around the time that you were passing through in a Wildcats uniform. I remember Christmas or Halloween one year. I was going as I wanted to go as a Kentucky basketball player, and my mom was like, "What number do you want to wear?" And I was like, 15. She was like, "You're not going to wear your dad's number," and it like hit me right there. I was like, "Oh, that was kind of disrespectful." So anyway, welcome, Jeff Sheppard. Thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
Absolutely. It's great. There's only, I found my fan, Todd. I found my fan. I've been looking for you, buddy. Fans are few and far between. So I appreciate you hanging in there.
Hey, absolutely. You were one of the first people that gave me hope that I might be able to dunk a basketball one day. But all jokes aside, it was incredible to watch you, growing up as a young boy in Kentucky, and getting the chance to live out what was ultimately a dream of mine, that was kind of born around the time that you were there. So, for all the kids that are watching these guys now, I have a little bit different of a perspective, having been through it myself, obviously on a smaller scale than what you were able to do. But also, my father was there for a period of time as well in the 80s with Joe B. Hall, God rest his soul. But you're becoming another piece to that puzzle as far as the father-son duos that have come through that university go, with Reed's commitment to Kentucky. So I just, from one half of the group that's been through that already, it's an incredible experience. I know you're going to enjoy it. The one thing my dad always told me growing up was if he could take his basketball experiences and give them to me, he would. And then the stars kind of aligned, and the good Lord gave me a opportunity to live out a dream. So I know what's coming for you and how proud you're going to be. So from one alumni to another, it's going to be a blast to watch you get to experience his time there as well.
It's been a lot of fun already. Personally, I'm a dreamer as well. And when I was a little boy, I was watching guys like Rex Chapman play and dreaming about playing there. And so to see the evolution of that is special, and to see it occur in my own living room is even more special. So we're excited about Reed going to Kentucky for a lot of reasons. For him to have the opportunity to grow up in Kentucky and have the opportunity now to play and represent the Commonwealth is very, very unique and very special. And to say we're excited is an understatement.
Absolutely. I'm going to be watching him especially close, just, because I feel, even though you all have about 100 times the talent that we did, it's watching that experience and kind of that eye-opening, like once you kind of get behind the curtain, is always fascinating. And, I was very thankful to get to be a part of it. So with that said, I want to transition a little bit into this year's team. In your era, there were, guys stuck around 3-4 years. In my era, they stuck around 1. And we're kind of at a place now with the recent changes in NIL rules, with the recent changes with the transfer portal, and you're able to play immediately once transferring. We got guys like Severe that played in the SEC last year, who's now running point for our team. We got guys like Oscar, who's the leading player of the year candidate, who transferred in from West Virginia that just played last year. And then you got a guy in Kellen Grady, who's a 2,000 point man at Davidson, that's in here in the starting lineup as well. And, I've seen the scrutiny that teams have faced, Cal's faced specifically, with the one and done rules. And, he's said time and time again, he's doing what's best for his players. If the rules exist the way it is, he's going to take advantage of it and try to do what he can to offer the best opportunity for these guys to play at the next level. With the way the game has changed now, and we'll get a little bit more into the X's and O's of that in a second, but with the way the game's changed now, as far as the business of basketball, we're able to go into the postseason this year with guys that have a lot of experience, even though it's not in a blue and white uniform. So I'd like for you to take just a second to speak to how much of an advantage you think that can be on these younger, you got a guy in Ty that's a freshman that doesn't have the weight of the world on his shoulders the way some guys in the past have. A lot of that has to do with the fact that he's got these teammates that have been through it and played a lot of minutes, that are able to kind of carry the brunt of that. So from a locker room perspective, from a freshman's perspective, how do you think that this is going to serve as an advantage this year, going into the postseason for this team?
Yeah, it's a neat dynamic to see come together. A locker room, a team has a lot of different personalities coming together in any sport and in any era. I do think Coach Cal is committed always to be cutting edge and to put his team together to put the best product on the floor, to win ball games, to build a program around, to continue to have recruiting momentum, to provide the most opportunity for each individual player that's available during that particular season. And wow, has the dynamic of college basketball changed in a short window with the transfer portal and NIL and so many COVID year, and just a lot is going on with college basketball. And he seems to be out in the forefront once again with not only transfers, but elite transfers. I mean, these three guys are just killing it right now and bringing a whole nother dynamic. I personally love the combination of experience and grit and bumps and bruises and guys that just kind of have been through some things mixed in with phenomenal young talent. And that formula worked for us in 2012. It worked for us way back in my day with guys like Ron Mercer and Antoine Walker, who had short stints at Kentucky, but were mixed in with old guys like us that had some experience. And because you need it all. And when you have it all and you're unified in the locker room and you can kind of sacrifice the selfishness that is there, then something special happens. And I think you're seeing that this year. I think you're seeing guys like the last game we played, Davion Mintz just steps up and has a huge game. And now all of a sudden, Keon Brooks Jr. is having really big games. And Oscar's just he gets every rebound that's available in the SEC. He just gets, I think he got some rebounds the other night, and when LSU was playing Alabama, I think Oscar had 2 rebounds in that game too. He's just everywhere, and it's cool to see and exciting to kind of follow these guys going into the tournament.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that answer, because you got guys like Davion and Keon who are, as far as Kentucky fans are concerned, vets. Sorry, just threw my phone. And they've had the experience of playing under Cal. And then you got guys that come in that haven't played for Cal, but they've got the experience minute-wise, in different conferences in the postseason and everything else. Those two things, to be able to educate the freshmen combined, not only how do you play at this collegiate level, but also how do you play for this coach? Because there's a dynamic to that too. Learning, what Cal means when he says something, right? Because he speaks in code sometimes, like many coaches do. So learning that dynamic within the locker room and allowing those guys to be an extension of the coaching staff, both in the locker room and on the floor, it stretches far and beyond just that particular play. It's the brotherhood that they're building. And I think we've seen that this team come a long way in that regard in the last couple of weeks, especially. So, Jordan, I know you got a couple things for him before he's got to run. Go ahead and take it. We can cut that part so it doesn't sound like I just
You'll be all
something
right.
to the camera.
Jeff, you mentioned your playing days. It was only, 22, 23 years ago now. The jury's still out on whether that's a long time or not. But in basketball years, that may as well have been, a century, because the game has just evolved so much. But in many ways, your teams, especially with Pitino, were kind of on the cutting edge, like you mentioned with Calipari. You guys play with a very high pace, space the floor, plenty of shooters. I'm curious what you think playing in this modern era could have done for your game, and what kind of advantage that can be for Reed going forward as a big skilled guard, where now really the emphasis is on the biggest possible and most skilled guard on the floor.
Yeah. I mean, I know personally I would have had to develop a lot of different areas in my game to have an opportunity to play at Kentucky now. I was in the gym last night with Reed, and we were joking around, and he was standing under the goal saying, I'm going to go right up and dunk, Dad. I'm ahead of you as a junior. I said, hold on, Reed, you're ahead of me in like every other area of basketball except standing under the goal and dunking the ball. Okay. So I'm not going to lose that one. I'm ahead of you there, handling the ball, passing it, shooting it, everything else you got me. But standing up there and jumping, you need to change the subject there on that one. But I would have had to change my whole, development, because you're right. There's a skill set that's involved now with these guys where, I would go into the gym and like practice 100, like rip through 2 dribble and try to tear the rim off. And now they're telling them to don't go there, pull up and shoot like a one-legged floater that if I shot in high school, my coach would have taken me out for 3 games, and now it's the shot that's being coached and practiced and developed. And so cool to see the game change and evolve. Everybody can dribble now, everybody can shoot, and everybody's expected to rebound and defend. And it's a fun game. I played internationally. There's a nice blend of the international game that's come over. It's very fluid, and it's a fun way to play. So, Reed's a kind of a product of that. He's got an interesting skill set, and it'll be fun to see how that translates at the college level.
I got a quick interjection for you. I want to ask one question real fast. Was there a time in your career that you switched 1 through 5 ever?
I don't remember switching 1 through 5.
Because it's wild to me how, like, in the way that the game's transitioned, that's what guys are being expected to do. We got guys, coming out on the perimeter, walling up on screens and, feeding into a switch if they have to. And again, that's things that we're spending time educating these guys on in practice, which I can't imagine, was happening in the 80s and 90s. And even really is.
Yeah, the whole dynamic has changed. We didn't run a ton of pick and rolls, and we had a lot of double staggered screens and back screen for lob type action and that kind of thing. And now you got all of this fluid handoff and run and go get it. And if you can't run a pick and roll, then you might as well pick another sport these days. And so the pick and roll was almost frowned upon, at some level when I was playing in college. So, but again, the best coaches coached through the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, and here they are, and they just kind of continue to evolve. And it's all about winning those ball games.
That's right. There used to only be one type of pick and roll. Now there's about 7.
Yeah. Speaking of the best coaches who are just inevitable, Rick is back coaching again at Iona. From I'm only 22. I have no recollection of Rick Pitino coaching at Kentucky. So,
or Tubby. How's that for aging yourself? He didn't. When I started talking about Tubby, when the jersey retirement, he said he didn't remember anybody before Gillespie, which is scary to me. But go ahead, Jordan.
But just to kind of help us out and the younger audience on this podcast, can you just describe Coach Pitino at Kentucky in one word, and then obviously you can go on from there?
Winner. I would say he was, driven to win basketball games and win championships, and his body of work reflected that. And, being in his practices, in his locker rooms, to see him prepare and drive us to win is what, what he was about. And, it's interesting. I work now in a professional setting, and nothing's changed. I feel like every single day it's about winning and getting after it every single day and outworking your opponent and being prepared and those type things. And so, those simple fundamentals work, and they win, and they are appreciated. And he was able to do that at a really high level every stop that he's been. He'll continue to do that until he stops coaching. Nobody wants to play Iona this year. You do not want to play those guys. And he, in a 1-game setting, he will be ready for you. And I don't care who you are. You better have a game plan, and it better be sharp, and you better be on your game, or you'll end up being the story of the tournament that gets knocked out.
he's a scary guy to face with any team. I mean, he's able to coach anybody and have them, like you said, well prepared. And he's going to find your weakness as an opponent. He's going to find the weakness, and he's been incredible about that. He's been called a lot of things, but a phenomenal coach is at the top of that list. And he's one of my favorite people to watch. I got a lot of respect for him. Jordan, you got anything else?
I do, but it's all right. We'll get Jeff back on in the future. I got too much to talk about.
I know you got to run. We'll get him back on. Jeff, I want to thank you, man. I can't wait to watch in the next couple of years. You get to go through what a small part of what I got to go through, or a bigger part of what I got to go through from a minute level. It's going to be a lot of fun to keep an eye on Reed, and I wish him and you the best of luck. Thank you for taking the time today, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll again sometime. Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. I'll catch you when you're in Lex. All right.
Sounds great.
Have a good one. Thanks.
Thanks.
We want to take a moment to tell you about our friends over at Liquid IV. Liquid IV's Hydration Multiplier is a great tasting daily electrolyte drink mix that utilizes the breakthrough science of cellular transport technology to deliver hydration to the bloodstream faster and more efficiently than water alone. Just add the electrolyte powder to your water and let CTT do the rest. With 3 times the electrolytes of sports drinks, as well as 5 essential vitamins, Liquid IV comes in convenient, travel-friendly, single-serving packets. It is non-GMO with no artificial ingredients and comes in 8 delicious flavors, including lemon lime, pina colada, watermelon, passion fruit, guava, acai berry, apple pie, and my personal favorite, strawberry. So head on over to liquidiv.com. That's liquid-iv.com and plug in code SEAT14 at checkout to enjoy 25% off of your order. Liquid IV, fueling life's adventures. Well, that was great. I'm really looking forward to seeing Reed get out there. It's a really cool moment. As cool as it'll be for Reed. From watching Dad while I was there, it'll be twice as cool for Jeff to get to experience that with his son. So I'm gonna really enjoy watching them and their dynamic as they get to experience this. It'll be a lot of fun.
Should be fun for the whole state, man. Whole state loves Reed.
Yeah, much more fun for the whole state than my experience was. I wasn't exactly. They weren't itching to get me in the spotlight. All right, so we are going into Alabama at 18-4 tomorrow, I guess, Saturday night, 5:00 Eastern time, against a 14-8 Alabama team who is 4-5 in the conference. Okay. And they have lost to, let's see, Iona.
Shout out, Rick.
Memphis. Davidson. Missouri. Mississippi State, Georgia, and Auburn twice. Auburn's okay, right?
Yeah. Auburn's good.
Auburn losses are okay, but those losses, disgusting. They have beat, however, let's see, Gonzaga when they were number 3, Houston when they were top team, Tennessee, Florida, and LSU when they were ranked, and Baylor.
Those are all very solid wins.
And Baylor. I forgot. They beat
Gonzaga
and Baylor.
Yeah. Those 2 wins right there are like top resume wins in the country.
Correct. So they have lost to some real bad teams, and they have beat some of the top 5 teams in the country. I think Baylor and Gonzaga both are top 5 teams in the country, regardless of where they were.
Gonzaga's my number 1. If it's not,
I agree.
Obviously, I agree. Kentucky every time, but Gonzaga is my best team in the country.
Yes, and then they lost to Auburn twice, but again, they're in those games. I can't. This is the most ridiculous resume in college basketball history, as far as I can remember. This is absurd. It's
absolutely feast or famine with them. They succeed, 100%, or they flop 100%. And fall on their faces massively.
I don't think that this is a good matchup for Alabama with Kentucky coming to town. But they're obviously capable of beating, the best teams in the country. They're also capable of absolutely laying an egg and dropping the ball, so to speak. So it's going to be interesting tomorrow night down in Tuscaloosa. There's no line out on this game yet. I can't imagine it being that close. I mean, I know that they've got those wins in the past, some of them pretty recently. I mean, the LSU game was January 19th, but they lost to Missouri on January 8th. They just beat Baylor on January 29th when Baylor was 4th in the country. So I don't think that the line will be crazy, but I imagine we'll be favored by, I don't know. What do you think? 4.5?
I'd probably
like
I was gonna say I'd probably have Kentucky laying about 5.5.
Okay, so we'll see. Probably later this evening is when it'll come out. This game is a weird question mark. I don't think that they're capable of stopping us from scoring. I don't think they're capable of guarding Oscar.
Yeah.
But they're clearly capable of putting points on the board.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be, it's going to be an interesting matchup. Clearly this team has the ability to win. I mean, they're averaging, let's see here. They are averaging how many points a game? Well, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'll find it, but
while
Go
you're
ahead.
looking for that, I will go ahead and kind of get on my Nate Oates soapbox here for a moment,
Okay.
because we heard, like, as soon as he got hired, we heard he was doing this crazy stuff, like implementing the 4-point line and making the long twos worth only 1 point in their practices. I don't think that I'm that much of a small ball 3 is more than 2 purist, but I'm not too far off. Let me tell you, I am not too far off. Nate Oates is one of my favorite teams in the country schematically. I love the way that Bama plays. I lean more towards the chaos of just letting it fly and allowing the numbers to speak for themselves. And I know that's not a perfect strategy. You need a little bit of both, but the way that I would like to see this Kentucky team play similarly to this Alabama team, because of the roster, because of how much shooting we have up and down the roster. But it all hinges on Kentucky's ability to stop Shackelford. He's incredible from behind the arc, not so good at finishing around the rim. I hope that Kentucky doesn't commit too much help to him on the rim. I hope they stay home on shooters and force him to prove that he can finish in the paint, which he has not. And then it'll probably just come down to, like you said, can they guard Oscar or not? And can Oscar pass out of a double if it comes?
Well, Oscar's proven he can pass out of a double. I do not think they're capable of guarding him. Shackelford is a fantastic player. He doesn't really scare me that much in this matchup. He's averaging 17 points a game and shooting 37% from 3. He can't beat us by himself. They've only got 3 guys on the roster in double digits. You got him, Quinterly, and Ellis, and none of them are. They create their own shot. They don't necessarily take advantage of the defense in the best way possible. And that's kind of speculative to say. So, but just from my perspective, if you look at this team as a whole, they're not going to be able to defend all of our weapons, and we can defend theirs. I really think that we're going to run away with this, but again, this team has been so dynamically different every time they've thrown the ball up. Every matchup has been different. It's changed. So you don't really know what we're going to get when this game starts on Saturday night. So I think we stick to our game plan, do what we've done in the past that's helped us win games, that's made us successful. And I don't think that they can beat us at our own game. If they're able to do, like LSU did and take us out of our comfort zone, take us out of our dynamic. But I don't think they have the talent to do that.
Yeah, they don't have the athleticism or the presence down low to be doing anything of that sort. Yeah, I think, like I said, their only chance is if Shackelford just becomes a problem going downhill, and when we have to dedicate help defense, and then he can get the ball to the corners or the wings for open threes. So my hope is just force him to make tough contested layups over Oscar, and maybe even throw Ty on him and just let Ty stick him the whole game, and just force him to finish at the rim, and then probably go from there. Would be my game plan. We'll see what John decides to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, as we've alluded to, I love that you just called him John, by the way, but I love that we've alluded to the fact that we're very widespread as far as statistically and how we're able to utilize those assets to score the basketball and, get good shots at the rim. We've got, like we said, all 5 starters averaging double digits. And then we've gotten some significant contributions from Davion and Jacob off the bench. This team, Alabama's team, does not have that. They don't have those, even though they play a lot of guys. Sometimes they don't have the ability to spread the love amongst the stat sheet quite like we can. So therefore, that combined with the lack of post presence with Oscar in there, and I don't think that they can create off the dribble well enough as a team to score easy baskets. We should be able to do what we normally do, stick to our game plan, and get a win in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I could see this being, and usually this only happens in Rupp, where a lesser team comes in and they've got one guy like Iverson Malinar just did for Mississippi State, where they've got one guy that just goes off, but the game as a whole is not really close. I could see that kind of playing out in a similar way, even though, again, it's not in Rupp. I could see Shackelford having a positive game in the box score, but just in the in-betweens, Kentucky just runs away with it because of the overwhelming interior presence and athleticism.
Yeah, and that's likely what will happen. They're gonna get theirs. I mean, if those 3 guys aren't scoring the ball, nobody else is going to. So, somebody's gonna end up getting theirs, and to a certain extent, let them eat, because they can't beat us by themselves.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be an interesting game just because of their resume in general, but I don't think that they're able to hang with this Kentucky team. So very much looking forward to another, well-fought team win on Saturday. Again, we want to learn from this experience. We want to learn from this game and take it in to the weeks coming. We're going into the second week in February. March is right around the corner. So every outing, again, needs to be a learning experience, help solidify what it is we're trying to do as a team, our game plan, our strengths, our weaknesses, and try to limit those weaknesses as much as we can. And take advantage of those strengths as much as we can. And obviously this team has done a phenomenal job of that thus far. So Saturday should just be another notch in the belt as we move forward towards the SEC tournament down in Tampa.
Should be. There's one thing we can confirm is that it's going to be a rowdy environment, because Kentucky always gets each team's best shot, and no one can deny that. I've seen a few.
I've actually never heard that quote before.
Yeah, have you? Wow. Yeah, I've been seeing some people try to say that that's not the case, and like Auburn fans were camping out for a week before that game.
Oh yeah, and they do that every weekend too, right?
Yeah, every weekend, no
every
doubt.
weekend for every game. All right,
No
that'll
doubt.
do it for us for episode 12. You got anything else?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
have
well
one
then
more
go ahead.
thing.
It won't do it for us for episode 12. Go ahead. What do you got?
Well, the Soupy's coming up. It's.
Oh
both,
yeah. Okay. Okay.
All right, you just sit there for a moment.
We got. Hang on. We'll tease this, but we got next week's episode that'll come out right before the Super Bowl.
Right.
So go ahead. Tease it.
So actually, what I'm going with, and I just want to preface by saying this is both an incredible time for football fans and a sad time, because there's officially only one football game left until next college season starts, which is just horrible. Just makes me want to. Little part of me dies inside every time I think about that. But I want to say we, on our last episode, or the episode before the conference championships games, you chose fun. I'll say you chose fun. You chose Rams and Bengals, which is like the most fun outcome of what teams could be in the Soupy. I took complete opposite. I took Chiefs Niners, and obviously I was wrong. But I will say
that part again. You what?
I took Chiefs Niners, and obviously I was wrong.
The second part of that. Obviously you were.
I was wrong to take Chiefs Niners.
Just making sure.
I hate you, but I was wrong. However, I will say I won money on both, because I took the Bengals against the spread, and I took the Niners against the spread, both as underdogs, and they both covered. So although my ego may have been damaged, my wallet certainly was not. And that's where I'll leave it. I'll open the floor for questions.
I feel much the same. I bet where not only my heart, but where my brain was hit.
You were
nail
totally
right on
going
the head.
off heart. You just
Are
wanted
you
to
upset?
see,
You look upset.
I'm not upset, but you totally just went as a Bengals homer, and then you probably
I'm
just
not a
you
Bengals
probably
fan.
just
though.
like the
Let me
Rams
hang on.
uniforms or
Let me
something.
clarify. I'm not a Bengals fan. I like the Bengals. I appreciate the Bengals. I've seen more of their games in person than anyone else because of the proximity to Lexington. I am, however, a Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase fan. Huge Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase fan.
I mean,
Love
how
that
can you
their
not be?
dynamic from college is spilled over to the NFL, and they're doing it better than everybody else. And to be on a selfish perspective, I want the Bengals in the Super Bowl because I want to drive up to Cincinnati to watch this ball game. I would rather be in Cincinnati for this Super Bowl than in LA watching it in person. 100%.
Yeah, no doubt.
This is going to be an absolute blast for us. And for a lot of my Bengals fans friends who are fans who have suffered for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a diehard Bengals fan. I appreciate them and watch them when I can. But I am a Joe Burrow fan. I want to see him succeed. I think the league is in his hands moving forward. And I'm really, really, really hyped for this game.
Yeah, I am too. I'm rooting for Cincy now. I'm a Patriots fan. If I had to choose a team that wasn't the Patriots, it would be the Lions. So I do have a little bias for Matt Stafford, but at the end of the day, Cincinnati is just so cool, and their fan base is amazing.
100%.
Like, it's right below like Buffalo for like the most loyal and committed fan base.
And the gear, the uniform color, the colors, it's all. I love it. I love it.
I am soft on orange, but I will say of all the orange teams, Cincinnati has the best orange.
That's true.
Sure.
That's true. It's not a Tennessee orange. It's a
God,
Bengal
no.
orange. Yeah. It's a Bengal orange.
Proper
Auburn's orange isn't bad either.
It's all right. I can't say anything about Auburn right now. Nothing good can come out of Auburn out of my mouth
true.
For the rest of this year.
All right. That's true. All right.
That's it, though. Get us out of here.
That will do it for episode 12 of Seat 14. We will be back next week with another special guest. And also we'll dive more into the Super Bowl, even though it's a basketball podcast, because obviously we're sports fans and you can't just bypass the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday next week. So Cats will get ready to head down to Tuscaloosa tomorrow night. Keep an eye on that game. It's going to be very interesting with the way that Alabama's schedule has played out thus far. So today's episode of Seat 14 was brought to you, as always, by Bet River Sportsbook in association with Liquid High-V Hydration Multipliers, RD1 Spirits, and for the Field of 68. Thank you for listening. I'm Todd Lanner alongside Jordan Barber. And gentlemen, I wash my hands of this weirdness.
I don't know. What is it?
Pirates of the Caribbean, Johnny Depp.
Oh, those are good movies. Those
That's
are
a
underrated
great movie.
movies.
It got worse as it went on, but that's neither here nor there.
A little bit. It's all right.
See y'all next week.